Hello, you're listening to Otaku Spirit Animecast. My name's Andrew, and I'm joined here, as always, with Chris.
Yo!
Today is our fall 2023 anime season reviews. I am already in winter now. I've finally accepted 2024, and now I gotta go back again. Isn't that suck? Like, the worst thing about the New Year's is that you have to remember to put the next number.
Mm-hmm.
It's annoying. Anyways, but yeah, this should be the final. I don't see any reason why this would not be our final of the fall 2023 anime season reviews. And then we can jump right into winter. I don't know. We might have like an intermission discussional between them, or I don't know. No, yeah, we'll probably have an intermission. No, our deliberations. No, we're not done with 2023. It's not over until like probably February. Then we'll get into winter or something like that. But anyways, as usual, we're at otakuspirit.com. It's where you can go for all of our links, social media links, ways to get a hold of us. But yeah. Greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships of YouTube. All that stuff is greatly appreciated. But with that said, let's just jump right into it so we can get this rolling, because we have a storm technically outside. So hopefully that doesn't knock things out. This might be an audio only podcast because I don't know how to recover video. I can recover the audio. I don't know if there's a recovery function for the video. We'll see. This might be a test. Test things out with this. So we'll see. That doesn't mean you got to knock out the power. Just saying. Anyways, let's kick it off. Let's kick things off with ButaReba. I've been excited to talk about this show, but unfortunately, the last episode is question mark. We don't even know what's going on with the last episode. They literally delayed the 9th episode, and then there was a conflict, obviously, because the last episode would land on that New Year's week, which nothing airs. And then they released a statement saying it's going to be released in January, or who knows? Like, they literally just said January, or who knows? So it's like, okay, I don't know. We'll see if maybe it might drop in October or something like that. We'll get the last episode. But as I stated before, when it was at episode, what are we at? How many episodes was it? It was like, I think it's a 13 episode one. It might be 11. It might be a 12, because I think I watched 11. And my whole point that I gave to a lot of people is when I was deciding my best of fall, I wanted to watch one more episode before I made my list. But I knew I wasn't going to wait for ButaReba. Whenever I do my top list for a season, it's not like I'm going to hold up my entire list because one show is not finished. I want to get the video out there. I want people to see what I enjoyed. And I wanted one more episode of ButaReba. And I got that. I got that 11th episode. And it pretty much answered everything that I was kind of wanting. There was this build up to like a reveal, and I wanted that reveal. They gave me the reveal, but then they added a question mark at the end. And it's one of those question marks where it's like, that's probably the last episode. The last episode is going to be, will they, won't they, kind of question mark answered, and then move on from there to next adventure or something like that. And they could do some really cool twists with the last episode. I can see where it can go into an interesting twist, but for the most part, I kind of get an idea of where it's going. Like, this is probably going to end this way. So I'm happy I got my resolve. So again, despite the fact that we don't have that last episode, I think I have my thoughts in order. Let's get into the show. ButaReba, the story of a man who turned into a pig. Or Buta no Liver wa Konetsu Shiro. And this one basically opens up with this guy who is an otaku deadbeat shut in. At some point he gets transported into another world and he wakes up as a pig. And he's not doing well. He's a pig that's not doing well. He can't even move. He's trying to call out for help. This girl walks in to the stables that he's in, and she immediately kind of takes note of him. Comes over, pulls him out, put him on this little tray, and then kind of slides him out of the barn. He wakes up inside the mansion that this barn is connected to, and there, he wakes up and he's able to move perfectly fine. And he comes to find out this girl that pulled him out of there and helped him out, her name is Jess. And the reason why he knows about her name, to get to this point, she is a part of this one race of people within this world that are basically treated like servants. And they're discriminated against. They're treated like garbage. Pretty much people will kill them indiscriminately. They steal these collars that are on their necks. These collars basically indicate they are of this race. But the special thing about them is they can read minds. And so she's able to read the pig's mind, which is this otaku, so he's able to actually communicate with her. And unfortunately, she hears everything that he thinks of, including naughty things, because he constantly thinks about naughty things. But unfortunately, because she is subservient, and she's constantly just she's just constantly going, okay, I can do that for you. I'll show you this if you want to see it. And he's like, no. I'm just thinking about that. Don't take that as you need to do it. I don't want to have to owe you a favor because I can't really do much as a pig. So that kind of turns into the chemistry that we have this show kind of start out with, is this idea of this girl who's a servant, this discriminated against race, and then you have this pig that's been isekai that's trying to figure out how to become a human again. Kind of find out there's like this past of this war with these mages. The king is one of these people that is a mage, and possibly this mage can figure out a way to change him back into human, so eventually they want to go there. Additionally, Jess has to go to the kingdom as well, because once this particular race reaches a certain age, they have to make a travel to the kingdom where that's like their duty. They'll be relieved of their job, and they'll immediately go to the kingdom. And that's essentially like what we find out later on, that's where they come from. So they come from there, they work as servants, and then eventually at some certain age, they'll return back. And then you have these people that are essentially hunters of them, which will kill them, like I said earlier, and sell their body parts, and additionally take the collars from them. So yeah, that's kind of the setup of the show. And very quickly, Jess makes her journey, and him as the pig goes along with her and helps her out, tries to do whatever he can to help her through situations, this purely through communication and trying to use his wits because he's a pig. Eventually, they meet up with this guy named Notos, and he essentially is a knight, and he will often... There's certain people that will actually escort these people to their journey to the kingdom as well, and they will enter the kingdom with them. So he eventually joins the party, and they go there as well. But yeah, that gets into my thoughts overall with ButaReba. I think this show starts out so fantastic. It is a really brilliant comedy early on. The seiyuu for Pig, Kirito, his voice, nails it. This show would not be as fun early on without him voicing the role as a pig, because he's the bombastic self within that mind, the goofy otaku guy that's constantly thinking about, oh my gosh, like, for example, he'll be walking behind Jess, and her skirt's like slowly kind of, flapping upwards as she's walking, and he's just going on this big long montage, or this big monologue, talking about the breeze hitting and her skirt, the fabric slowly lifting up, and the possibility of seeing that sacred fabric underneath and all that kind of stuff, and he just nails it. And again, like I said, the return, which creates this really fantastic chemistry, is Jess, who immediately turns around and says, I mean, I can show him to you if you want to. He's like, no, stop. Stop reading that part of my mind. He even at some point establishes, whenever you hear it with this like sound effect that I'll add to it, that's my inner dialogue, and you don't respond to that one. But whenever I don't use that, that's when I want to talk to you. And it never works. Like, she constantly keeps responding to everything, really. Their chemistry is fantastic. And it gets a little more wholesome later on in the idea that you have Jess, and she's, again, technically treated like garbage in this world because she's of this race. And the fact that the pig openly accepts her, thinks that she's beautiful. No, I can't be beautiful. I'm of this race. I'm ugly. No, you're beautiful. So you do have that kind of acceptance chemistry that happens that's really beautiful as well. So yeah, early on, great chemistry. Love these two characters. They're fantastic together. Then at some point, this is where it gets into like the area where I'm extremely mixed on. I mean, I have my conclusions, but this is where it gets really mixed, is the idea that at some point, things start getting extremely heavy for the series. This is where we're actually getting into... I keep dancing around the name. I think it's the Yesmas or something like that is the race. They get into the actual race and what is expected of them, how they're treated, and yes, the darker side of it, which is the hunters that are hunting them down. It gets into showing the horrors of how these people are treated and the rules and restrictions around them, how... most of these people don't even make it to the capital. They're dying on the way. It gets really, really dark in how terribly these people are treated. And we were kind of getting hints of that, I think, when we were... I don't think that we were getting hints. It was just like one of those things where it's like, when we seen the PV, it's like, there's going to be something really dark in this one, isn't it? Like, it just felt like there's this mystery. Like, early on, I was even questioning, like, where do they get these gems that they make the prayers from? It's like, I was actually wondering if possibly they sacrificed them to make them. But like I said before... it's not one of those things where it ruined the show for me, because I wanted that information. I wanted to see what was that darker side deep inside of the story behind this world. I wanted to see why is this the way it is really the question mark. That's what it poses the question, is why are things like this? Is it because maybe in the past this particular race was the bad ones? Is it possibly because again, they're a resource? Is it because maybe they have magic within them and they make the crystals out of them? Why are they treated so horribly? There's got to be an answer for this. And that's what I was saying about the whole, like, I need one more episode. I need those answers. And thankfully it gave me most all the answers I was looking for. So in the end, it's satisfying. But herein lies the problem. There's still that idea that technically for a good 6 episodes, I was building up to this point where I was like, I need something satisfying from this. Like, is this just mean to be mean? Not that it's like gruesome the whole time. It's just that it feels kind of mean. It's a very dark world. And so I kind of wanted something answered in the end. I wanted some sort of conclusion that gave me a purpose for all of this. Not that horrific things and catastrophes and discrimination has to have purpose, but for it to be somewhat entertaining and satisfying, sometimes it feels like a necessity. And I felt like for ButaReba, I needed that. Why? Is because the beginning. The beginning sold me on this really fun chemistry that I was really enjoying. And guess what? The moment that serious tone hits and you start building it up to this disgusting world and revealing what's behind the curtain, this went away. That's why I needed some sort of conclusion. I needed a payoff for losing this great chemistry. Because honestly, for the second half of the entire show, there's no fun chemistry anymore. So it's like, okay, give up one thing. I hope I get something else out of this. So there's where I think my main criticism in the end, besides the fact that, yes, the show is not the greatest looking. Project Number 9 worked on like 3 shows this season for fall. And this was one of the ones that didn't get too much budget. I mean, they still kept Jess very beautiful. She's got a very unique and beautiful design to her. They kept her pretty on model most of the time, ? But yeah, the budget wasn't really here. I mean, it didn't really show its underside until probably around the later parts when things action-wise start to kind of pick up. That's where you notice, gosh, nothing's moving right now, and something's obviously happening on the screen. It's just nothing's happening on the screen. I'm hearing things happening. I guess the team doing the sound's doing their job, but there's no animation happening.
Sound team's always on it.
They're on
Just
point.
say they're always on it.
They have the animators over here. They're trying to draw one frame at a time, and the sound guys over there going clunk, 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 clunk. All right, I'm done, guys. Are you guys done? I literally draw through 2 lines. Sound does take more effort, and I understand that. But anyways, most of it's like they just got a bunch of pre-recorded stuff, and they just kind of hit the button. There's the step. There's the footprint sound effects. Yep, got it. All right, what next? Anyways, what was I talking about? Yeah, technically, I will say the animation-wise, visually, it struggled. But it wasn't a terrible-looking show overall. I thought it was decent looking. Like I said early on, Jess just looks gorgeous. But my only real critique for this series is that it opens up with this great chemistry. Just absolutely fantastic and fun chemistry that is just full of laughs. And that just disappears. It gets so sidetracked with the serious nature of the story, which it should. It shouldn't have them constantly talking about a character, talking about how they treat this particular race, and then suddenly out of nowhere a pig cracks a joke about Jess's butt. They do still crack jokes in there. Like, there was this whole thing where they bring in this other girl with brace, and she's got, obviously, a larger chest, and Jess is a little bit smaller, and Pig makes thoughts about that, and then Jess gets a little jealous. There's still jokes in there, here and there, but it's all but non-existent for the most part. So, again, I think the payoff in the end is good. I think it's a very fascinating world. I would love a second season if this doesn't end in a way that it's completed. I doubt it's going to. I think the light novel's still going. I would still love more. Hopefully, with the second season, things will kind of chill out a little bit. Again, based on my theories on how it can end. Maybe it'll chill out a little bit and things will get a little bit more fun again with the characters. But for the most part, like I said, don't expect what the first part of this show is going to be the whole show. And expect an interesting world in the end. So, I enjoyed it. In the end, I thought it was a good show. So, that's ButaReba. Yeah, at some point I told Chris, like, yeah, it gets a little dark. It's not like you're not seeing suffering happening, but you see the scars is really the point. You see the scars. So there you go. ButaReba What else we got? Giving the disgraced noble lady a crash course in naughtiness. Did you get a chance to watch that one? I think that was the only one this season that I was saying. No, the Yuzuki family, as I was saying, possibly.
Yeah, Yuzuki family.
Disgraced noble lady. I'm giving the disgraced noble lady I rescued a crash course in naughtiness. I'll spoil her with the delicacies and style to make her the happiest woman in the world. That's the full title. Or Konyaku haki sareta reijo wo hirota ore ga ikanai koto wo oshiakomu. Yeah, that. Anyways, this one's done by Zero G and Digital Network Animation based on a light novel. And this one opens up with a girl named Charlotte Evans, and she is currently fleeing from this kingdom because she has been called out by this nasty dude. And she ends up stumbling upon this one forest where the guards then surround her. And then this guy named Alan Crawford shows up and pretty much puts them all to sleep and then hypnotizes them into believing that they couldn't get her or something like that to leave her behind. And they all just leave the forest. Well, come to find out, most people kind of have this feeling that Alan is like this evil demon lord of this forest. But in actuality, he's just kind of in his own little mansion in the middle of the forest, and he's super powerful. He's very brilliant. He does a lot of research into magics and stuff like that, and he sells his research. That's how he makes all of his money. But most people are afraid of even coming to him. They think he's some sort of demon lord inside of his little mansion. But yeah, he saves Charlotte, brings her in. Over time, finds out that, yeah, she was kind of falsely charged and treated terribly by her family. She was basically, it's kind of like that whole My Happy Marriage thing where she was raised just basically being a servant. Her family just treated her like garbage. The only person that seemed to have liked her so far, it seems to indicate her sister liked her, and that was about it. But everybody else treated her terribly. So Alan kind of takes her in, allows her to stay there. She obviously wants to help out around the place, doesn't want to be there for free, so she kind of does a lot of cleaning and stuff like that. But, as the title would lead you to believe, over time he realized this girl is too damn pure, and she doesn't want to do anything to step out of line. She's been so treated terribly that she just kind of wants to stay in this little bubble and help out and not disturb anything. And he's just like, do naughty things, basically. Do naughty things. So yeah, like the first one that they have is he literally buys in a whole bunch of like sweets and says, eat. And she's like, but dinner's coming up or something like that, or it's going to spoil dinner. And she's like, no, eat these sweets. Do it now. He actually creates a method in order to force her to do it. And that he says that he has the power to literally crush his heart by the snap of his finger. So he'll often say, like, I'm going to basically break my heart if you don't do it. And that forces her to have to indulge in the candy or whatever. They have this whole situation where he orders in a punching bag and then puts the face of the guy who, falsely charged her onto it and says, punch the punching bag. And she literally just has no violence in her, so she doesn't want to punch it. And then he forces control of her hand so that she punches him. Is that kind of silly stuff. And over time, yes, you kind of get that little bit of a sense of a romance kind of blossoming between the two of them. He really kind of appreciates her presence. At the same time, she's obviously acknowledging all the nice things that he's doing for her. We get into stories about her family, how she was mistreated. We get into, again, her sister. We get into this whole segment where they go out to this like zoo, and then this Fenrir shows up. Apparently the previous tenant of his mansion, he never realized, is this elf that's actually locked herself up underneath his house because she's trying to get away from her editor. Because she writes books and she's been trying to hide from her editor, so they all think that she's dead, and she's been hiding in this like underground like basement of the place, so technically he can't live there anymore. All that kind of stuff. But like I said, at the core is this relationship between Alan and Charlotte, which gets in my review, and I think is pretty much the bread and butter of this series, is the chemistry between Alan and Charlotte. I think they are just absolutely a bundle of fun. Alan works so great because he's like this rare male type character in a... Let's go ahead and classify it just to make it simple. It's the perfect waifu scenario. Charlotte is this beautiful, super cute, and super perfect girl that is just kind of, just fluffy, and you just want to protect her kind of scenario. Alan's like one of those rare cases of having that male character where I'm like, this guy is so great around her. I think he is just perfect for her. He's literally the contrast of her, where she's like, don't do anything, stay in line, don't step out of line, don't speak too loudly. He's the type that's saying, break something, girl, break something. You have to break something. And it works so well in that regard. He is just inside of his own head. He is just absolutely malicious. He's not like, again, everybody thinks he's a demon lord, and he sort of acts like a demon lord, but he's not a demon lord. Like, he's not trying to conquer things. He's not trying to destroy things. He's just in his own head. He is diabolical. He's clever. He's constantly thinking of, nasty things that aren't necessarily, violent or nasty in actuality. He's just got that kind of sinisterness in him that just absolutely works. He's got that brilliance in him. He's confident in himself. And yes, whenever something steps out of line or somebody comes to harm Charlotte, that's when the gloves come off. And then suddenly that's when he can probably classify him as Demon Lord. That's when he's going to literally say, I'm going to break your neck if you touch her again, kind of scenario. And it totally worked for him. I think he's fantastic. And the Seiyu for him, I meant to look it up. I know his Seiyu from somewhere. I just can't quite place it. But he's got a brilliant Seiyu too. Charlotte's side of the whole situation, yes, obviously, she's adorable. I want the best of her. She's too pure. But I like that her character has so much development. She is not just a one-note, I need somebody to protect me kind of character. I loved how gradually, very slowly, but gradually over the episodes, you do see where her confident levels start to go up very slowly. And so I like the idea that watching episode 1 and watching the last episode, you can see that contrast and know that it is not... Some shows will kind of do the first episode. If you watch the first episode and you watch the 11th episode, they look the same. But then like something climactic happens at the very end, and that's why you suddenly see that they actually have changed. You have some shows where the first episode and the last episode, the character's the same. I like that if you watch gradually through the series, you see that gradual change. I like to see her kind of slowly open up, get confidence in herself. I think a big boost of it was the whole situation with the zoo. That was like the point where we sort of reveal that she has a special thing about her, and it's her ability with animals. And that was like a great little kind of thing that opens up for her that kind of continues out throughout the rest of the series. So great cast of characters. I love Alan's sister. She is so nasty. I love this whole scenario where they end up having to kind of sleep in the same room. And the sister's literally outside, and she was going to do something to kind of mess with them. But then right before she does it, Alan uses like this like knock yourself unconscious type of spell. Like he can literally put somebody to sleep at an instant. And so he used that on himself and knocks everybody out. And so you have like his sister and this other person outside the room. The next morning they're passed out too. And somebody comes by like, what are you guys doing out here? And so later on, the sister like puts like this spell on so where it blocks it so that he can't do it again. And so she's outside the bedroom while he's trying to use it on himself to knock himself out because Charlotte's like in the bed right next to him and he doesn't want to do naughty things. It's super good. I think every character in the series kind of adds a fantastic chemistry to it. Yacha, who is like the delivery girl that shows up. Even Natalia, I think her whole segment was fantastic. It's just a fun show that has a great band of characters and chemistry. I think the character writing in the series for each scenario just did a really good job. I mean, I will admit there's like a few skits that were kind of like shrug, but I think for the most part, I enjoyed this show a lot more than I thought I was. This is one of those shows where when the season was coming up, I'm like, okay, too pure waifu character. We'll see. We'll make her eat sweets, and she goes, "Moi, so delicious," and blush and all that kind of stuff. It was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. So, definitely way up there for me for this season. So, there you go. Giving the Disgraced Noble Lady a naughtiness crash course. Should I go right into Under Ninja? Under Ninja happened. I was telling Chris that after I watched Under Ninja, I jumped right into the manga, and I was like, whoo. This manga is violent. we censored a lot of stuff from this show. Stuff that you just do not see even on anime for the most part, unless, I mean, the older anime did a lot, but yeah, these days you don't even see that on most channel networks for Japan.
Did it live up to your hype?
What hype did I have for it?
You were pretty excited about
when we first were coming up to the season. Yeah, I think there was a lot of positivity around the manga, and so obviously there was an expectation. Hopefully, the show was going to turn out great. And I think looking at the manga now, I think a lot of the expectations or a lot of that hype is around the style. The manga is very detailed, which makes sense why the chapters are so short. I think this adaptation, went through 72 chapters. They're very short chapters if you think about it. For a 12 13 episode series to go through that many chapters, they're very short chapters. But anyways, yeah. Sweat Under Ninja basically takes place in Japan, where you have the existence of ninjas. They still exist. They talk about this whole past with a lot of ninjas. Ninjas still are around. Over time we get a little sense that there is a little bit of a issue around the ninjas. There's a separation that's happening. We have the UN trying to get involved with the ninjas. We have technology the ninjas themselves use. All this kind of stuff. Getting into literally ninjas existing in modern times Japan, and the political war is still happening. Basically the underbelly of Japan. And we follow a guy named Kuro. And Kuro is one of these ninjas. He's been pretty much sitting at home waiting for a job. And eventually, finally, somebody shows up. This delivery guy shows up, puts down a package. You know who I am. Yep, basically, this is your mission. It pretty much leaves behind a sweater with a hoodie sweater. And he has to kind of figure out what his job's going to be. Later on, he gets a school uniform. So he figures out, okay, I need to go. My job's probably going to be to go to this school. That's where he goes there. You have a little bit of a turf war that's happening there with these ninjas. And then it kind of, over time, telling all these other separate stories around Kuro. I think the deeper story that kind of gets into later on, we have this whole segment where you have this foreigner that shows up that's working for the UN. They have his baby hostage, and so he's forced to try to find the ninjas and infiltrate the ninjas. It gets into more later stuff about the nin themselves, the society itself, who's the current leadership, this whole kind of loyalty project they're kind of going through, and then wrapping up the story with this big conflict at the school. And that kind of wraps up this season. Like I said before, I'm very, very mixed on this show, and I was mixed on it very early on, and I never really did shake that. My biggest issue that I've had with this series, and it felt like it did less of it towards the later part, but early on especially, I think the biggest problem this series has is that it's just all over the place. It is jumping between like 20 different perspectives of 20 different characters constantly throughout a single episode. You'll jump around to like 5 to 6 different characters. And then you have the aspect that not only that is you're jumping around to different characters So you have these different time frames they're trying to cover. You're getting this perspective of this date at the beginning of the episode, then you jump forward to present time, and then you jump further back in time to this date, and it's just constantly jumping around. And I was equating it early on with our first impressions of this series. I was equating this show to sort of like an Odd Taxi situation. What made Odd Taxi so great was that you had so many perspectives, and yet it was somehow perfectly weaving it together to make a coherent story. Unlike Odd Taxi, which did also involve jumping around in time here and there, Odd Taxi was mostly strictly just to, let's see a little bit of backstory for this character, and then we'll come back to the present time. It wasn't so much like this, where you're literally jumping around to 5 different time frames in a specific episode. So while it does still nurture that great storytelling that is very clever if you piece it together, it at the same time is very hard to do that, and it almost loses a lot of its context and worth based on it jumping around too much. So even in the end, when I conclude watching the show, I still hate how they can't structure their storytelling well enough. And it's probably purposely done, but I think it ruins it. I'm sure there's plenty of people that will disagree with me. I think it is a detriment to the storytelling that it jumps around as much as it does. And I think there's a lot of stories in there they could probably do without to keep it more structured. Like this character right here, probably not that impactful to the story. Let's get them out of the picture. I will argue that all the characters are technically important to the story, because they all give different vantage points from, like I said, different groups of the ninjas themselves, the UN, just bystanders that are around the situation, leadership of the nin, all that kind of stuff is technically important to the story, but I can argue you could probably do without them and still manage to mold the story together properly. But still, in the end, I really like so much about the show, and that's why it bothers me so much. I think Kuro is a fascinating character. He's literally like the, I don't know, deadpan humor, like just blank-faced killer that is just trying to get around and be a ninja, and then at the same time he's so socially awkward. Like, just conversations with the people just seem so weird with this guy. Just kind of chilling in his room, shooting darts up into the ceiling and trying on a bra and everything like that. There's so much oddity about him. He just seems so weird. And granted, most everybody around him is weird as well. I mean, there's no shortage of weird individuals in the series. It's literally like an entire cast of ninjas that are like the ongoing joke early on was this guy that was walking around with his beer hanging out of his belt, his shirt, and he's got like a scruffy going on, and he's balding, and he's got a pump on his chest all the time, and he's asking people if they want some milk. And there's technically a whole story behind that whole dude, and it is so great the moment that it finally reveals it. It's like, okay, it's kind of less creepy, but it's still kind of creepy. There's an explanation really for everything, and that's where I get the cleverness of the writer themselves. That's where I see sort of the gold that is in the story, and that's probably why Under Ninja, besides like maybe possibly the art itself of the manga, why it's so popular. Because I can see all these threads connecting. I can see that there's a lot of cleverness in the writing itself, but I can't shake the fact that for the most part, I'm going, please stop jumping around and let me finish the story. Like, let me see the conclusion of this. I don't want to look at this right now, but you're still pulling me over here to see the cat that's thinking to himself how he's a brain transplanted from a guy that was killed on a publicly broadcasted channel where they kill criminals with daggers. She's like this old lady and she starts killing everybody. It's weird. Yeah, in the end, I like it, but I wish I could love it, but I can't shake the presentation a bit here. But yeah, it's a very interesting show. It's a very unique show, that's for sure. I technically love the idea of modern day Japan, modern day ninjas really in general. And I think they did a really good job of almost making it to where this sort of makes sense how it plays out. I mean, minus the fact that everybody's kind of screwed up in the head. But I mean, ninjas might be screwed up in the head. Might be in the training. I don't know. That's Under Ninja. That's my conclusions on Under Ninja. I would love it. I don't think they had another season announced, but I would take one. I'd definitely take one. Yeah, Goblin Slayer second season ran for 12 episodes. For those who don't know, it's about goblin slaying. Shocker, I know. I thought we talked about this show. I feel like I've talked about this show like 3 times, and so I want to check to make sure that we didn't do this one already.
I don't remember you talking about it yet.
Okay, yeah, we didn't do this one yet. Anyways, yeah, it follows Goblin Slayer, literally his name. For those who don't know, Goblin Slayer is essentially like the manga. Well, it's a light novel technically. The writer for this series is like a massive D&D fan. It has the feeling of Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, even I think the opening of the original season and the original story was literally like opening up this idea of the DMs, the gods, rolling dice for the people, and it kind of plays in that as well as the idea that every character in this series doesn't really have a name. They just have like their title. So you have Dwarf Shaman, you have Elf Archer, and yes, the main character is literally Goblin Slayer. There's nicknames like they call Goblin Slayer Orc Bolg and stuff like that, or the dwarf calls the Elf Archer Anvil. There's like nicknames they'll still give each other, but for the most part, they all just like, there's the priestess. That's her name, priestess. Which does kind of get weird when you start to add in a lot of character, and then you start having like, oh, it's the wizard boy. You have this knight guy. But anyways, yes, pretty much opens up with this guy. He's the Goblin Slayer. He just is obsessed with killing just goblins. So he comes in the guild. He's very talented. Everybody knows who he is. He just comes in and says, do you have goblin slaying quest? And you get a sense very early on with the first season is that most people don't care about goblins. They're like, that's the weak stuff. It is the quests aren't very challenging. They don't pay very well. And Goblin Slayer is a rare person where he's like, that's the only quest I want. And he also, whenever there's like something that they need his help with, he's like, is there goblins? And they're like, no, we got this problem with this, this elder gazer over here. And he's like, but is there a goblin in the dungeon? There might be. Okay, let's go. It's like the whole situation. Like, you literally have to trick him into thinking that there's a goblin in there. Otherwise he doesn't care about going in there. And yeah, obviously there's a whole reason for that. I don't know. I never got a chance to watch it. I don't think I did. Or I don't remember if I watched it, and I never went back to check. As I don't know if they got into it with the movie, but there's obviously there's a story behind why he's obsessed. I mean, you get a sense in the idea that over time, through Goblin Slayer's perspective and everybody that follows him, he sort of shows them just how clever goblins are. They are very cunning. They fight in packs. They don't hold anything back. And most people downplay what the goblins can do, and that ends up getting them killed. And yes, there's the darker aspect of the whole situation, which is when people fail to beat goblins, if goblins beat them, there's this whole horrific thing that comes up after it, because as darker fantasy will kind of show you, goblins do technically make more goblins using women. So there's that whole horrific aspect that's kind of behind it. And that was definitely something that kind of turned a lot of people away for the first season, and I felt it kind of showed it, established it, and then moved on from it. But you still see the remnants of it every now and then. They'll go into a dungeon, they'll rescue somebody, and they're obviously kind of a little messed up. But yeah, getting into the second season, kind of opening things up. The first arc was really about like this wizard boy who's like very cocky. We get into how something they were kind of hinting at with the first season is this idea that Goblin Slayer, or at least this group, wants to better instruct their adventurers. They're losing a lot of adventurers because they're going out there, they're cocky, they don't know what they're doing, they're not preparing well enough, and they're getting themselves killed. And so they kind of set up this whole training camp in order to train new adventurers to know how to handle themselves better. And that's a lot to do with what makes this series so great, is because it is very D&D like. It's very realistic with how it plays out, the scenarios they run into. One example I give, in this season, they had this point in which they were kind of pointing out why they put certain ropes around their bottles. So they'll buy a bunch of potions, healing potions, stuff like that, and they'll put rope around the top of them. And they point out the reason why they do that is because when you're in a dungeon and either you're fighting or it's dark and you go to grab a potion, how do you know what color it is? I mean, you lift it up, you're going to bring the torch to it if you have a torch. Well, they use that as a way of being able to feel what they're grabbing onto. So there's little things like that most of these adventurers are like, I just want to go out there and poke sword into it and it dies. Well, there's a whole process to steeling yourself so that you can survive. And that's what kind of Goblin Slayer, the story around Goblin Slayer has always been about, is acknowledging what's around you, strategizing, and using your environment. Like, Goblin Slayer himself is such a fascinating character because, like, it was shown early on is the idea that he'll walk into this room and everything about him is weird. Okay, he's got this broken down armor. He smells rotten. It's because he's doing all these things in order to benefit him against the goblins. Oh, he smears himself with corpses so that they can't smell his scent of being human. He comes in there, kills this one goblin, immediately picks up their weapon and uses it on the next one, because these weapons are going to break, so he'll constantly be switching weapons, grab whatever resources around him in order to fulfill the goal, which is always to kill these guys. So yes, the joke is Goblin. Goblin Slayer. His name's Goblin Slayer. It's all about killing goblins. But within that is strategy that I've always found fascinating with the series. It was kind of like when we were talking about the first season of Faraway Paladin, in that opening segment when he goes down in that undead area. And it was so strategy. Like, it wasn't like crazy footable action, but it was strategy. And that's why I've always found fascinating with the series. It's always about strategy. And I've always loved that aspect about it. And yes, it does give me a little bit of that feel of, sitting down and doing a tabletop D&D session, all the different steps that you have to kind of take in order to overcome your enemy and strategy that kind of comes with it. So yeah, they have the whole training camp. Then later on, they go to a wedding for Elf Archer's sister, and that gets into the elves themselves and their kind of isolatedness, getting into the whole aspect of, Elf Archer basically acknowledging that she's going to outlive Goblin Slayer someday. Does she want to live with that or not? That kind of usual kind of conversation coming up there. And then we get into, we had Priestess basically had this whole kind of challenge that was placed upon her with the wizard boy and her being able to rank up. And then the later part gets into this whole kingdom and this dumb princess getting herself captured by goblins and going and fighting a demon summoning goblin cult. That stuff. More goblins. I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. I want to say there was the first season wasn't the greatest animated show, but I think they kind of stepped up a little bit. There's still some wonkiness to this season as well, but I think it looks decent overall. Great music, great sound. It's just a fun little kind of fantasy adventure, very raw fantasy adventure that I've always enjoyed. So I'm looking forward to more. I do want to say that technically with the season a lot more into Goblin Slayer himself, kind of showing that emotion that he's technically keeping bottled up inside, which is great as well. Just seeing the more raw side of him. So good stuff though. That's Goblin Slayer's second season. Good offendo. Did you watch that Garbo show?
Yeah.
At least he watched Girlfriend. Kanojo Mo Kanojo second season. I'm gonna get hate for that. I know it. Crunchyroll streaming it. Ran for 12 episodes, done by Synergy SP, which took over from Tezuka Production, who did the first season. So, this one follows Naoya. First season, he basically finally gets the girl of his dreams, Saki. And then right after getting Saki, this girl just pops up out of nowhere, so that she'd been trying to work her entire life, training her body and skills and knowledge just to impress Naoya, so that she can go out with Naoya. And so he's like, crap, I don't want to turn this girl down after I finally got Saki. And so he goes to Saki and says, hey, can I have both of you? And she's like, you're an idiot. Okay, fine, we'll do that. And then later on, he swoons over a YouTuber named Rika, and Rika just is in love with him, but he's like, no, it's all right. I already have 2 girls. I can't 3 time. And then we have Shino who shows up, and Shino, well, she didn't show up. Shino's always been with Saki. She's her best friend. And we kind of find out, we kind of got a sense of it in the first season. Shino likes him too. And so she doesn't like the idea that she likes him because she doesn't want to betray her bestest friend. So, yeah, thoughts on season 2? Tashkani, the anime.
Wait. I'm talking?
Mm-hmm.
After 45 minutes?
You could have talked earlier. You don't. You're always welcome to talk when I'm talking about shows.
Oh, yeah. Girlfriend. I actually really liked this show. I liked it in the first season. I still love it in the second season. It is... I with the addition of, really in all actuality, going into the second season, it kind of more focuses around Rika and Shino. Basically, you have Saki and Nagisa are kind of going into level 2 in their relationship with Naoya, and Shino and Rika are kind of in the...
Wait, they're going up in their relationship?
They're leveling up. You really want me to tell you? It's a big spoiler.
What'd they do? I must have missed something because I didn't see anything change with Saki and Nagisa.
They kissu.
Saki never did kiss him. Spoiler. That was the whole point of the end of it. No, it was Nagisa that has never. I forget which one. I don't know.
Saki
it's been
got
a long time
kiss.
since the first
I remember a kiss from Saki.
I think it was Nagisa because I think they had at the very
was
end.
mad.
She said, I never got it.
Yeah, Nagisa got mad.
So I don't know why you're saying level up.
Well, pretty much everybody got a kiss except for poor Nagisa.
For Nagisa, yeah.
Yeah, poor baby.
So, yeah, your point is fail, Chris. Thank you. Thanks.
But she got the princess hold. So, yeah. Now, it's kind of funny because in the process of kind of focusing around Shino and Rika, it kind of put a heavy emphasis on those two, and it did make for some really interesting things, because you get kind of Rika, kind of her more forceful nature, and how she becomes a part of this group as a whole, even though she is technically on the outside. And at the same time, you had Shino as a kind of counter to Rika, and how she's on the outside, and how she would kind of ultimately, if she does become a part of the group. But yeah, either way, I thought it was a really, in a lot of cases, some of the stories were really touching. You got a couple of really heartfelt moments, some really goofy moments, especially with Shino. She's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot.
You just like her Seiyu.
I like all of their seiyus. I like all the characters, except for Noya. Well, although I do get a kick out of his Tashkani.
I think there was only like maybe 2 parts in this entire season that Naoya got me laughing. I'm kind of carrying over from my issues the first season, so don't just take this with a grain of salt. But I'm of the group that the first season, it opened up really great, and I think it was really fantastic for the first few episodes. And then it's kind of one of those series where every now and then it'll have a really good skit, but for the most part, it's just the same thing over and over again. And I kind of carry that over into the second season. I think Naya kind of lost his flavor at some point, and he's just kind of just a dumb protagonist that I really don't care for. And then adding to that, you have characters like Nagisa who are just not doing anything with her. Like, I think Nagisa is like literally the most... She's too passive to the point where she just doesn't exist. Like, she gets so drowned out by the noise. It's not even funny. Like, every now and then, there's points where it's like every now and then they establish, oh yeah, Nagisa's in this group, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about Nagisa. Yeah, she's technically here too, isn't she? Like, it's like, why Saki? He's got to be faithful with Saki because he can't get with Rika. Oh yeah, that's right. He's with Nagisa too. That's right. This is a harem, isn't it? But no, I do think that Shino's stuff does have some sweet points in it, and I do like her character, but I felt they spent way too much time on it. I guess there is a side of me that is probably a little bit swayed by how much I enjoyed 100 Girlfriends, and the idea that now I'm going back to this, and it's like, it feels like a lot of these story arcs just drag out. But I do think Shino and Rika's chemistry was great. I think the moment that Rika finds out about Shino, things got spicy with the two of them. And I actually enjoyed that part of it. Like, I was going into the second season going, it's just more of this. I had this great moment where I laughed my butt off when he took Naya to Rika. Rika took Naya to her house to show her sister and said that you can have this great sister if you go out with me. And he's like, wouldn't that be creepy? I mean, he's like, yeah, you're right. Not Tashkani. She's super cute. Your sister is super freaking cute. I would love to have this as a sister. But isn't that creepy that some guy goes out with you because your sister's cute? And it's like, oh yeah, that's right.
And then she said, Tashkani.
The sister's like, Rika, you're nuts. Like, even the whole like later part where he wants to like drug and kidnap him. And the sister's like, girl, you're crazy. Like, the sister was literally the best part about this season for sure. Like, every scene that the sister was in was gold. And like I said, I liked Rika and Shino's kind of chemistry. It's basically the two of them, conniving in the background, and a lot of it really is Rika pushing Shino. It feels. There was a side of me that was kind of like, this is sort of mean. Like, there's a moment where I'm like, Rika's kind of mean, but in the end, it feels like she's the one that pushes this, and it's kind of a good thing. Like, she's technically breaking something that just has been stagnant for so long. Like, Shino is sitting here suffering, and it's almost like Rika's nastiness is what helps Shino fix because she won't move. So there is like this diabolicalness that's in the background that I actually liked. Well, I did like their chemistry
in a way, what was fascinating about that is Rika is both being selfish in how she's forcing Shino to acknowledge her own as almost a kind of self-acknowledgement, and also in a way of forcing a conflict with Saki and Shino to force Naya to Naoya no Doof to Tashkani to accept more to his group. And it's so funny because all these really I know that it's cheesy in a way, but in a way it makes sense because it's forcing the quadruple timing effectively. Even though she technically already had him in her 1 year, less than 1 year to win him over, she is technically still on the outside. But by forcing Saki to accept Shino, she has a little bit more. Well, you even though you said you wouldn't take a third person, you've now taken Shino. I mean,
he's the most faithful, unfaithful person.
Yeah.
We've established that. He's the most... That's like when Rika first showed up in the first season and was like, take me too. He's like, I can't do that. That would be unfaithful. And she's like, dude, really? 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 No, I think even with that moment, it was like Saki turns and says, really now? They didn't stop you with giving Nagisa. But I mean, it's kind of similar to 100 Girlfriends, where you do technically have, like, Saki does, like, adore Nagisa. Like, it's hard not to adore her because she's so cute, but yeah. Like I said, I think there was a great chemistry in Shino and Rika. I think they really did add a great flavor. And I think that's because really, and again, it was a lot of my issues the first season is that at some point I got sick of Naya. I still liked Saki's kind of over-exaggerated responses to things, because she kind of turns into the straight man, where she's like pointing out the absurdity of things. And Rika kind of carried it a little bit with the first season, but I think again Shino and Rika together kind of just really to kind of develop it up. So.
I fully acknowledge you are right. Nagisa did in a lot of ways. She kind of blended into the background in a lot of cases. And I mean, she's
like what we talk about with the yandere. It's like there's some certain archetypes that just kind of explode over other ones.
Yeah.
And she's literally, her archetype is quiet.
Yep.
How do you make her take over? Besides every now and then she does something super cute and it's like everybody acknowledges and looks at her and says she's cute. Like, she's dumb. have a dumb moment. I thought she was like super into academic. No, well, she gave up her schooling because she was focused on cooking and health, right? The first season?
Yeah.
So she did get dumb.
And you got so
Nagisa did get dumb, right?
You've got Shino in a lot of cases where she's very similar to Nagisa, but what happens with Shino is she has the lucky lecture.
Yeah.
And so she
can't get married anymore.
She naturally tends to kind of drag your attention. Rika is absolutely bombacious, just like Saki is. So you got those two.
She's narcissistic. Rika's a narcissist.
I love Rika. She's absolutely hilarious. But both of those two just absolutely absorb the screen time, except for when Shino's on the screen and there's a lucky lecture moment, and you're absolutely focused on her. But then you got Nagisa.
Sure,
she's just perfect.
You're focused on her eyes, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely focused on Shino's eyes.
Focus on Shino's eyes. Is it just me, or is Shino's character design like not even fit the show? Like she absolutely
looks like a Tsubasa or Tsubaki. Like she's got
like the cheesy master Takagi-san's art.
Yeah,
mangaka. She got the forehead thing going on. Yeah, she does. She looked like she's out of Cheesy Master Takagi. Maybe she's Takagi. I don't know. Maybe different Takagi. But yeah, I will admit that, like, again, I fully acknowledge that I think a lot of my enjoyment of the series kind of died out with the later parts of the first season. And like I said, it didn't really help out that coming into the season we had 100 Girlfriends, which is pretty much doing everything this show does, but like 10 times better. I will say this is a lot more long form storytelling than 100 Girlfriends. 100 Girlfriends is kind of like bam, bam, bam. Like every episode is kind of jumping the next character and then introducing the character into the group and then jumping the next character. Whereas this one is, like I said, the second season is literally telling about how Shino needs to get away from the situation because she's hurting. And then Rika, again, making the challenge to Naoya that I can make you love me in this certain amount of time. If not, I'll go away. And he's literally like, Toshikani, hey, Saki, let's do that. Which is totally stupid, but they go along with it. Those are the story beats. That's like literally those 2 story beats. And the rest of it is just kind of playing those out. So, but with that said, like it was an okay season. I just wasn't like totally invested in it. It's not like it's not a series that I think I would tell most people go. If somebody asked me for a really fantastic rom-com, I would probably say that it's still leaps and bounds above a lot of other harem shows. A lot of harem shows is literally character throwing the girls. The main character is just a background character while the girls are cute, and then shenanigans happens. Girlfriends as a franchise is still up there as I think one of the more clever of the harem type of series. It's got the second season syndrome that a lot of shows lately are getting. So for Andrew's second season syndrome, which is where like Uzaki-chan and stuff you want it, but then you get it and you're like, I don't know if I wanted this. But this isn't like Uzaki, because like I said, I still think that Shino and Riko's segment was really great. So yeah. And the sister. Girlfriend, second season. That's that. Faraway Paladin. The Lord of the Rust Mountains. Or Faraway Paladin, second season, I guess. Sayate no Paladin Tetsu Sabi no Yama no Ao. This one's streamed on Crunchyroll, ran for 12 episodes, done by OLM and Sunrise Beyond. Apparently the first season was done by Children's Playground Entertainment, so switch there. Based on a light novel. And yeah, opens up with this guy named, well, he's named Will. Basically, is a isekai series where a guy gets transported into another world. He was actually birthed, or he was put into, he was birthed in the world, right? Yeah, he was put into an infant's body.
Yeah,
he wakes up as an infant, and he's being raised by these undead in this undead city. Blood, Gus, Mary. These 3 undeads are raising him, and over time, instilling upon him all the knowledge he's going to need. They're teaching him how to fight. They're showing him magic. They're teaching him how to, they have this goddess and to praise the gods and all these rituals and all this stuff just to instill upon him as much knowledge as possible. The first season was kind of this build up to the point in which the 3 of them were eventually going to part ways with Will, and he would have to set out on his own. And they were trying to put as much into him as possible before they had to do that. And it got into this bigger story about this evil demon king person of the past that went around and caused this massive calamity. And they were the ones back then that actually were the heroes that came up and stopped him. But then they kind of died in the process. So, but yeah, Will then at that point sets out, eventually meets this guy named Melndor. At some point, he ends up joining Will. And they kind of go throughout the world. Will at some point met one of these very unknown gods, which is Gracefield, and he becomes a paladin serving under Gracefield, helping out people and taking down baddies. The very end part of the first season, he ends up like liberating this forest that was being attacked by monsters, and then he gets assigned to be the lord of the land, and so he's kind of forced to have to like build up the land and protect the land, all that kind of stuff. And that's when we get into the second season, which kind of opens up very quickly with the dwarves showing up there. We get a little bit of talk about what happened to the dwarves, why they had to flee to their land. And then they go to this one tree where the tree tells them about this calamity that will befall them. And so Will was trying to figure out how to stop that. Is when I stopped watching, because Andrew fails to keep up on the show, and it snowballed for me. I honestly was trying to keep up with all the shows, and no, I think what happened was in the first impressions, we were mentioning the fact that I was watching the first episodes and something wasn't clicking for me, and so I wanted to go back and watch from the beginning again. I never did. And then like later season or later year stuff just crept up. But I watched Girlfriend, I just needed to focus, and girlfriend, I don't need to focus as much. That's the problem. Like sometimes there's some shows where it's like, no, I need to really focus on this show because it's not just, oh, Lucky Letcher. It's actually got a story you have to make sure you pay attention to. Anyway, sorry. What'd you think of it? I was liking it up until that point, I guess.
I really did. I really did enjoy this. This one was there. It's fascinating how this writer is good at taking his time with stories, and I kind of in some respects I don't know how to explain it better than it felt like I was being kind of dragged along. But I didn't feel like I was bored of the story. I just felt like I want to get to something that's meaty. And in a way, it's kind of not exactly. This one has a good amount of just build up, slowly piecemealing the story as it goes. Mainly in the fact that for my takeaway in particular is slowly introducing, okay, what is Will doing now? Will is building the city that he was kind of, like Andrew had mentioned, kind of just dumped off onto him. He's building the city up. Oh yeah, by the way, some of the people that have came into the city and is helping him build it is these dwarves that kind of moved in recently. Oh yeah, by the way, they're kind of refugees from this city that they lost a long time ago. They're still building up. He's running on these little errands to go and help the forest over here. Oh, comes back and we talk about there's this small revelation in the forest that there's this thing that's happening at the dwarves city. It almost feels like all these things are kind of coincidental, but at the same time, it's the piecemealing of the story a little bit more. Oh yeah, by the way, Stagnant's still alive. Oh yeah, by the way, Stagnant's very interested in Will. Oh yeah, by the way, and this is what I'm talking about is as far as the piecemealing of the story, it takes its time. The writer is both giving you the wonder of the world and at the same time just piecemealing the story just a little bit at a time. So
that's what we were talking about with the first season, honestly, is
it's a slow burn.
The argument that we had with the first season was like, this is really good. Like, this is such a good build up, but this is literally like episode 0. Like, this is a prologue. Like the first season is literally a prologue. It is showing how he got there, how they built him into being this paladin, how he made his faith, he gave his faith fealty to Gracefield. This is what happened in the past. Go out into the world. See you next time. And so we were at the time we were going, I need an announcement for a second season because I can't really recommend this as it in itself unless you're wanting to read the light novel, because this almost feels like a source material bait. And then the second season got announced and I was like, great. And it's, I'm assuming, going to be the same case where it's just like, again, not like, okay, now that the first season's done, time to adventure, right? Time for crazy stuff to happen. No, it's still kind of that slow burn. And I had that feeling coming into the second season. It was like getting into the dwarves, and I mean, you showed him where he's literally sitting down and meeting with like the heads of the dwarves, and the dude's breaking down because they literally they feel they're dead. Like we're done. We're gonna die. We're gonna crawl up in a ball somewhere and die. And he's literally going, no, you can stay here. You're welcome here. Don't worry about it. And then, yes, eventually diving into, everything that technically did happen with the dwarves. So even with the first episode I watched, having a whole episode where we go out and find a song for B to sing. I still ship Will and B. I think they're just.
I think they ship them. Honestly, I'm waiting for them to just confirm it. Just make it canon. I absolutely there was a point that
I mean, I guess most people
did you at least get to the point?
I know most people are shipping Melendor and Will, but I go with B.
Okay, I there's something I got to talk to you off the podcast. There's a hilarious moment that you've got to get to. I absolutely
I'm for sure gonna eventually watch the show. It's just like I said, I didn't get didn't get to it before now.
I absolutely love, towards the end, we got one of the things that I really did like is the fact that Will, even though he is absolutely sworn himself to Gracefield, he gets into a discussion with a member of his party for when he goes on to challenge the Lord of the Rust Mountains. He gets to talking to one of his party members, and he's discussing Stagnant. And Stagnant, you would automatically assume, is kind of an antagonist of sorts to Will. And Will disputes this right quickly. While he does see Stagnant as an enemy of sorts, he explains that he doesn't quite see it the same way that you would look at an antagonist. And I think
we talked about this before, and it's literally kind of something they hinted at they didn't hint at it, but they were kind of talking about that with the first season. With the first season, they technically, spoilers for the first season, he talked to Stagnant, and it kind of get an indication there that he's not necessarily it's not black and white. Literally what it is.
Yeah. And he confirms this more with that character in the party, and even towards the end of the entire season, you get this real big reveal of Stagnant, and it's really fascinating, and I absolutely love that you have both your antagonist and your quote unquote big bad for the season. And what eventually happens in that. And I think that this writer is very good at just making these huge payoff moments. And I absolutely loved it. I
always liked Will's character. I always found him as being a very level-headed. There's like a little bit of it that's like he's a little bit too pure, but he's a good boy. I appreciate this writer the most, and the idea that I like that Will is a very rare case of the man of the cloth, and he's a good character in the idea of being technically like a man of the cloth, because he's literally going around saving and helping people, and he's doing it for the sake of his Gracefield, which, yes, let's all be honest, is hot, and they say he's great.
And at the same time, he is also flawed. He's although he is OP, he is still growing. He is faced with things that are overwhelming in a lot of cases, and this is very well shown in this season. So
yeah, that's Faraway Paladin second season, or I'm sorry, the mouse. No, you can not that mouse. The Lord of the Rust Mountains. Yeah, that subtitle. Return of Magic should be... Is the next one we're doing is Return of Magic? Yeah. The Return of Magic... A Returner's Magic should be special. Or Kikansha no Maho wa Tokubetsu desu. This one ran for 12 episodes. Done by Arvo Animation, based on a web manga. And it does have a second season announced, which is probably a very good thing, because it just kind of stops.
Needs more. Yeah.
It just literally goes, all right, time to go to our first big challenge. See you next time. But no, yeah, this basically opens up with our main character, Desser, and he is fighting alongside all his companions, trying to take down the biggest threat, this massive dragon that is like the main threat that has been devastating the entire world. He's thinking about how, like, all these people that he fought alongside over the many years that are all dead. The Romantica, this girl that was literally, like, seemingly like the love of his life. Everybody's dead except for his last party. And they finally take down the big dragon. The dragon dies, and they're all sitting around talking about how, they got through it. They're making jokes about his ability. And eventually, this glowing happens for the dragon. The dragon explodes. They all die. Then for some reason, he jumps back in time to the point in which he goes to this academy to start training, and then realizes, is this a dream? What the heck's happening? And then he realized, yes, he's pretty much went back to that point, going back to the academy to train with all these people that he fought alongside that died. And so he decides, okay, I'm doing this again, so I might as well try to make it to where this next time he doesn't lose everybody. So he kind of goes through and does these different things with different individuals to kind of show them, like, to one up them. Like, the very first situation is they have this whole trial thing where they go into this they do a lot of their training in this, like, this simulated world. And so this first kind of competition, he goes against this Azest, and she's like this ice blade queen. She's super powerful, and he literally he beats her, which he didn't before. He beats her, and it's obviously because he doesn't want her to be confident in her skills, wants to show that she can be beat, so that she keeps training and gets stronger. You have a lot of these people that he went to the academy with. They were happy with where they were at, so they never got stronger. And so he's trying to beat everybody so that they start to train harder. Eventually, he makes his own little group, which he brings Romantica in and Prom, and he starts giving them actual, like, special lessons. Like, he's having Romantica do these, like, dumb things, like pick up a ball with her magic and make it land in this circle without, like, throwing it. It has to land in the circle. And it's just different ways that she's using her magic in order to essentially build her focus in using magic so that she can do, like, multiple wind torrents and be able to control them, like, perfectly individually. Like, different ways that he's trying to push them and get them stronger and stronger. He gets into Prom and basically undoes, like, a mistake that Prom made at some point by giving up the sword that his father gave him, and all that kind of stuff is all in an effort to build their group and not fail this next time as they go forward. And like I said, it technically, which is sort of unfortunate, and it makes it difficult to suggest. Yeah, it does kind of build up to the point where it just kind of stops. But it wasn't like a bad ending, but it is kind of one of those, we built up into this one kind of competition and then cut off. Here's the next step. It's kind of one of those stories. Here's the next step. They show you where the next step is, and it just kind of cuts off. So yeah, there's some subplots in here, like the aspect that when he first comes to this academy, he quickly remembers, oh yeah, that's right, they had a little bit of an issue with commoners. So they have that whole kind of commoners and nobles, and the nobles are the only ones that can be allowed in this group of elites. And Romantica was kind of being allowed into that group, even though Desser knew for a fact that Romantica is a noble because of the accomplishments of her father. It's kind of one of those aspects of being brought in nobility just based on your accomplishments, which most nobility don't see that as equal. But she was being kind of pushed down in the rankings because of it. And he's pulling her into his club, which is going to be commoners. And they're trying to show up everybody else, which again is to make them stronger. So yeah. Thoughts?
I picked up this one a little bit late, mostly on Andrew's kind of suggestion that it because,
I was doing the first impression. You were like, I gotta watch this, don't I?
Yeah,
like, I guess so.
It sounds kind of interesting, and I am kind of glad I did end up picking it up. It is a kind of an odd twist on kind of the story of the reincarnation, and I ultimately don't misunderstand me. I am very mixed on this ending. Maybe it is because of the way it ended. I liked the concept of it. The fact that Desir is going back, kind of picking up Romantica, and going through this kind of mix on explaining why he's how their relationship was before. How he lost her and what she is truly capable of because he knew how powerful she really was. Getting into Prom and kind of not understanding why he wasn't as powerful as he had known that Prom was when he had met him in his previous time through. And how much he really truly respects Azest and how he feels kind of he kind of has this challenging her and how much he really does actually truly really like her for how
He respects
he
Zest
really
a lot.
respects her.
Yeah, he respects her a lot.
But yeah, ultimately,
He's literally trying to turn him into a rival too. It's like,
yeah,
try to show her up, just turn into a rival.
at some point you start to see these other aspects of the world that I think is really a fascinating thing, but it doesn't. You have this this flawed protagonist in the story, and yet he's not really kind of revealing what he knows. He's just going with it, and I this is one of the probably the things that I have the biggest frustration with. It doesn't feel like the story is being told really well. It's just, yes, he knows all this stuff, but he doesn't have any real way to outlet it. It's definitely not really kind of hanging out in his head, but
It's mostly like next steps.
Yeah.
Like he knew what prom did, try to undo that. Then you have the whole situation with the towers and the gyms that raise the barriers, and so he wanted to be a part of the group that takes care of that, and that was all into the fact that there was going to be a group that was going to come in and steal it, and that kind of opened the door to that particular faction. But that was all in order for him to meet somebody else important that is a part of his future. I do agree with you in the idea that when you step back and look at the story, it doesn't really feel like there's like build up points to like this grander story. It all feels like it's building up to something way out here. And that's what I was mentioning with my first impressions. I think my thoughts in the first impressions are kind of similar to my thoughts in the end. Is I don't know this is going to get anywhere. And sure enough, by the end of the season, it's literally we're not getting there. Like when is it? You have literally a story that's built around starting over from 1990, and the catastrophe happens in 2020. So, all right, first season ends, and we're only halfway through the first year of 1990. So when did we ever get to that part right there? Yes, technically, all these stories are a build up to a final climax, and that could be 20 volumes later in the original source material. But you still kind of have to have those story arcs that are satisfying.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that this has like a satisfying story arc. It does have some good individual stories.
Yeah.
I think Prom's story is good. I think his build up with his rivalry with Azez is good. I think the whole thing with the tower and them protecting it in order for him to have a chess match with this important individual, revealing his power or not revealing his ability to manipulate and create these resources. Desser's ability is kind of interesting. He's basically got the ability to break other abilities. Like he hacks into other people's abilities, which is great for what he's doing because he's robbing people of their power, which forces them to have to be stronger. So he's technically a perfect vessel for building people up and getting them stronger. But the biggest struggle that I have, and again, it was what I had the first impressions, and it still remains in the end. I don't think there's enough conflict within him about what he's doing. What I mentioned in my first impressions was that you have this character who, battle-torn, gets to the point where they defeat the big bad dragon. And it's just him and like three people. That's the only people that survived. And then in the end, they all die anyways. And then he starts over. He walks in this room. And again, he sees Romantica, which is I think it was pretty much heavily implying that it was somebody that he was romantically interested in.
Yeah, he was involved with her.
Nothing. Oh, it's Romantica. Nothing. Every time he sees her, it's Romantica. Nothing. It's like it doesn't feel like, besides every now and then suddenly he brings something up about something's coming up here. Like again, the tower. The tower's going to attack by a group. And then again, with the very end of it, all right, this is when things start hitting, and he tells them that something's coming. Be ready. Besides those 2 points, there's nothing really. Yes, knowing Romantica's truth, the fact that her father again gained his title. There's not much here that is conflicted inside of him about what he knows. So that's, I think, the biggest kind of miss there. Not that I need him to sit there and constantly in his room go, I can't take constantly seeing romantic. I mean, perfectly fine with it if it actually does it well. I don't need him to constantly be crying every time he sees Romantica, but at the same time, show something. I think Desser is he's just a weak character.
Well, and that goes into what I was saying. I mean, I don't know that I really like the fact that I like the concept of him going back and retreading these things, but I don't think he's pulling it off. There's something not right. It's not working for me. Is it because he's not in his head? Is it because he's not revealing? Do I need him to go and tell all these characters, hey, I am actually from the future?
You almost did it too.
I mean,
he almost did it.
Yeah,
too.
he almost did it. But at the same time,
it's like, no, that's all right. Don't do it. I want to figure it out.
I'm gonna figure it out. But at the same time, I need to have some kind of an acknowledgement of.
I think it worked really well when he was first confronting Romantica about her truth. Like, he literally got her mad.
Yeah.
He's literally has this dangling over her head that she's going to ruin her life. And she's like, don't tell anybody. How the hell did you find out about that? And I like that brief moment where he's like, come join my group. But he's basically blackmailing her. He's just like, he's dangling over her head. Come join my group. I mean, you could go join them, but they'll find out about this. Join my group or don't. And I kind of like that, because that was like that brief moment of him literally forcing her to do something, which is going to be in her best interest. Because again, we know he knows what's going to happen. But it's still, after that, I just didn't really feel it, I guess. But I felt it there, and I think that was why I was so hot on it with the first impressions. I liked that whole segment. I thought that was really clever. But beyond that, it wasn't really much. It was just like, let's practice. Keep practicing. Keep practicing. Oh yeah, tower getting attacked. Keep practicing. I don't know. Maybe it was just too many training montages. Do you think it was too many training montages?
No, I just think that they didn't pull off Desser. I really think that's a lot of it.
Desser. Anything else? I'm gonna watch second season for sure, though.
Oh, I absolutely am. There is enough here that I have something to chew on. I just don't think they've pulled off.
Don't chew on Romantica. Her pigtail's probably chewy.
I had so many comments I wanted to make.
I was going for the safest one. Okay, I just chose the safest one and went with it. I mean, you could go with the Boku.
Problem is kind of cute.
And somebody was like, is it supposed to be a girl? And I'm like, it's just a Shota.
I don't know. They
I mean, we'll find out whenever they eventually actually have.
They're actually going. You know, they're gonna make it clear at some point. But for now,
they didn't have a bath scene, did they?
I don't think so.
They did. I had a feeling they did at some point, but I'm probably not. And I was like, that's actually a surprise, because they usually find that out with that. Suddenly, it's just it finally gets revealed. It's like, yeah, okay. I think it's just a Shota. Anyways, that's Returner's Magic. I shall survive using potions, or potion damomi de iki no bimasu. This one's streamed on Crunchyroll for 12 episodes, done by Jumondo. Source is a light novel, and genres are fantasy. And yeah, of course, this is by the creator Funa, who did Saving 80,000 Gold for Another World for My Retirement. Didn't I say to make my abilities average in the next life? But yes, this one opens up following a office worker who one day she's on like a corner of the road, and this like rift in the universe is like right there, and apparently the god showed up to destroy that and ended up cutting Kaoru in half, just killed her. And so he's like very apologetic about it, like, crap, we kind of screwed up. So we're gonna give you another shot in this other world. I got this goddess over here. She's gonna take good care of you, and sends her off to that goddess is like, oh, the Earth god sent you over. I kind of like that guy. She's like super into him. And so Kaoru takes the opportunity to pretty much milk this goddess of like a really good life, make like OP abilities and everything. The things that she asked for is to be a little bit younger again. Same self, though. Have the ability to create any type of potion that she wants in any type of container that she wants. What was the other one? There was something else.
Speak.
Oh, yeah, all languages and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, she was like, that's asking a bit much. But then Kaoru was like, oh, crap. I bet that Earth God's going to be pretty disappointed in you then. Because he said he was going to handle everything. I mean, he did technically kill me. And it was his fault. All that kind of stuff. And so she ends up kind of dragging it out of them. Also gets a letter sent back. Or is able to go talk to her family. And they're like, all right, peace out. It's like, oh, man, they're not really upset about this whole situation, are they? But yeah, she goes to this new world. And she starts traveling around and making potions. As the title would lead you to believe. It kind of gets in this whole moment where she starts to help out like the children, and she does it all in this guise of being like this secret worker of the goddess. Every time somebody takes note of her, she always kind of tells them, look, I'm not a goddess, don't worship me, I'm not an angel, I know the goddess, and she does whatever she does, and she says if you mess with me, she's gonna send out wrath. And then she'll create like potions that have like glycerin, nitroglycerin in it, and it blows up or whatever. So that's oh yeah, she ended up. It was funny because like early on they mentioned the idea of like, oh, so you're gonna send me to a world of like dragons and magic. It's like, oh yeah, that's kind of like that. And then she shows up there and she's like going around trying to give potions to everybody, and everybody's like, what are you talking about? Potion? No, we don't. I don't know what you want. I don't know what that is. And then like somebody shows up and they're like dying, and she's like, somebody heal them. They're like, what are you talking about? I mean, you guys can't cast heal spells and stuff like that. Here, drink this potion. And they're like, what the hell did that just do? It's a potion. Like, they have no clue. She comes like, oh yeah, come to find out those like lanterns aren't even like magic field and stuff like that. It's just like this isn't like a world of sword and sorceries. It's just, yeah, there's swords, but it's like no magic or anything. So it was like a little bit of a miscommunication there. She treats the goddess Celestine like Aqua from Konosuba. I'm like, she's not that bad. She's kind of cute. Plus, she's not Toyama, so I don't like the idea of making fun of not Toyama.
Go ahead. She was cute.
She's cute,
even though she's not as big as. I was looking up for the pan. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, that's true. That was dumb. She's like running around and talking to him. No, for the longest time, I thought she was making the pans to make the point. And the moment she did that, and she had to get like a whole bunch of them, and she was yelling about it, I'm like, oh, so she's not making them? Okay, I thought she was always making the pans as like a joke for the group, because she's always trying to prove to everybody that she's not controlling Celestine, and Celestine would strike her down. But yeah, I was wrong there. So what's your thoughts? One question for you. What was the whole thing with Francette? I mean, she's great. I think she was like the funniest thing in that show for the longest time. But like there was one moment where she first meets her, and then she gives everybody a potion, and then she gives Francette 2 potions. She said this one will help the prince or whatever, and this one only drink it in front of somebody you trust. And so she ends up using that second one to prove to them that the prince can drink it. She goes, look, it's good. It's from the goddess. And she drinks it in front of everybody. And then they're like, okay, it actually works. And then she gives the other one to the prince. And was it the prince or it was the prince. She gives the other one to the prince. And then they drink it because they trust it. But it made her younger?
Yes.
So what was the whole thing about drinking it in front of... And then later on, Kaoru was like, wait, is that you? Like, it was almost like she didn't realize what it was going to do. Like, did she create a potion that would... This is what I got from it. This is my assumption. Drink it in front of somebody you trust. So she drinks it in front of technically somebody that she had a crush on, which was the other prince. Was it the other prince? Is the potion something that will grant a wish to the one that you love? And thus, he wanted her to be a little bit more cuter and younger looking, or youthful looking, and so it made her kind of look a little more youthful. And so it fulfilled that wish. That's what I came to the conclusion of, and that's why it would shock Kaoru, like, oh, that's you? Oh, okay. Like, it threw her off that it was her, unless it was a youthful potion in general, and then she just didn't recognize her because she became youthful and doesn't look the same. It was confusing.
That's what I thought it was, because she was complaining about the fact that she was a middle-aged woman and she was never going to get married.
Yeah.
And so
maybe
I
it
assumed
matched their ages, because he was a little bit younger than her.
that might be
That's
what
probably
it
what
is.
it is. Do this in front of the person that you cherish, and it ended up making her same age. That makes sense. I don't know. Whoever reads the novel series is probably going to correct us. So your thoughts?
I enjoyed this. I think Kaoru is a goofball. I really like the kind of constant building of this kind of reputation and then kind of running away from it. It kind of gives her a reason to not get stuck in one spot. I did kind of, in a way, there was an aspect of that I did not like. I did not much care for the constant chasing of the royalty. The royalty did get kind of annoying.
It got repetitive, dude.
I didn't hate the whole moving from town to town, and having a reason to move from town to town was fine. I just didn't care for the chase from that.
But that was like twice, so you can't say that's too much. Yeah, Ferdinand, was it Ferdinand? The prince dude showing up every 2 minutes trying to grab her was like, yeah, at some point she's like, oh no, I'm her sister. And then he's like, oh crap, it's her sister. Really, dude? Just go away. And then she finally goes back to that kingdom and he pops back up on the screen. I'm like, oh god, he's back. Like for a while there, it was like, because she's like one of the first princes that she meets. And he's like enamored by her because she's like brilliant. And because he was getting advice from her, basically. And then she goes to another kingdom and he literally goes into that other kingdom and they're like, that's bad because it's almost like that's like almost like an invasion. And so you being in this country could cause like political wars, but he's obsessed with her. And then literally she goes, oh, no, I'm her sister. And he's like, crap, I gotta go back home. And then like, again, she shows up later on. I'm like, crap, he's back. That dude was annoying. Because he was pretty prominent early on, so I could see that. But no, I thought you were going to get into that aspect, and I want to jump right into it and get out of the way. Is yes, one of my biggest frustration with this series is kind of repetitive. It is literally she goes into the next town, she establishes something there, she gets too much attention, she reprimands all the bad, evil, rich people, and then she goes to the next town. In the next town, she tries to create another shop or work somewhere. She gets too much attention because she does something great. Everybody, all the kings and nobility gravitate to her. She says, no, I'm not the goddess or angel. I'm working for her. Leave me alone. Goes to the next town. And it's kind of, there's a twist to it every now and then when like with the whole situation where she literally brought like the church and the king and everybody to this area and then like sat him down and said, literally, look, the goddess is going to strike you all down. I'm not an angel. I don't have powers. She has the powers. She says that if you try to do something to me, she's going to strike you all down. I'm not allowed to enter she was like, this one point she said that she's like not allowed to enter like the kingdom, like the castle. And if she enters the castle or the church, I think it was also, something bad will happen. So she's like trying to create ways to make them leave her alone.
What was the loophole that she did to get that situation?
She said literally that I am not supposed to like choose a side or anything like that. And
no,
if you
it had
force
something
me, the goddess will strike you down.
It had something to do with what he had done.
Which one?
She used his invitation. And when she went to the door, the guy didn't let her in.
That was an excuse. Like she's like,
no, I know. She was using a loophole to make it to where she couldn't go in there, and then I'm not going to go there now. And then she said that because she had
because he was being rude to her and he wanted to get back at her. So he's like, okay, well I guess I won't go in there. And then the guy got punished for it. Like she didn't like that guard. Like she literally ratted the guard out because he was being mean to her. Like he just seen her at a commoner and he was like, get out of here. He's like, okay, well, I guess you're gonna get in trouble. And then sure enough, they're like, why didn't you go there? Because he kicked me out. He wouldn't let me through the gate. Anyways, yeah, I think my biggest issue with the show is that it's kind of like the worst parts of 80,000 Gold. Like, I love 80,000 Gold. I think the main character of Saving 80,000 Gold is super fun. And Kaoru is kind of like her. Like, she's not the same levels of awesomeness as her, but Kaoru, it does have that same good writing. Like, this writer is really good at these kind of selfish main characters that are kind of up in their head about how they view things, but in the end still help people around them. Like, they still lend a helping hand. The problem is, what the only problem that Saving 80,000 Gold had was that it gets, every now and then it gets preachy, and it gets too involved with the political powers. Like, constantly something has to happen where there's a nasty noble, and then the good noble or the good king shows up, and that showed them, and they have to run away with their tail between their legs. With this one, it kind of is 80,000 Gold, where instead of having that fun, like, cleverness of the main character, instead she just has an OP ability, and then she talks down to everybody. And so every arc, which is literally like every episode, every like little story arc, or every other like 2 or 3 episodes of her being in a kingdom and then leaving the kingdom, it's literally her getting the attention of the big nobles and the big kings, them pulling them wanting to get her attention, and then her standing in front of everybody and saying how terrible they are, and how shame on all of you for being greedy people and bad for being obsessed with money, and politics are bad, and kings are bad, and nobles are bad, and then she leaves. Yeah, they're not to say they're not bad people. I'm not saying they're good people, but it's just after a while, I don't really care to see her enter a big party again and talk about how everybody's stupid. Like, I get it, but it's not interesting to see her, talk to all these bad people about how bad they are. Do something fun. I don't care to see this. And so that's where I felt like for a while there, it was really rough for me. I think where I started enjoying it more was kind of the whole moment where she starts distributing the potions, and then you had the war kind of come up, and Francetta being crazy with like her crazy insta-kill sword potion. And all the other guys wanting one too. Can we have one too?
Can we have one too?
Oh, boys. You boys. But I get to give it back.
I liked the eyes of the goddess and all that stuff. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, I like that stuff as well. I think my biggest problem, not my biggest problem, but like another problem that I kind of have is, why potions? Like, it at first it kind of seemed cool. Like, I had so many thoughts about, like,
me too.
Let me say this. The very early, I felt like it could be really cool in this idea of, like, she just creates potions and people use the potions, and I was fine with the idea of it doing any kind of effect that she wanted to. But at some point, it just turned into she creates anything. Like, if she wants a car, she says, so I created a car in a vessel that's a car. Or I create a potion that is in the vessel that is the shape of a car. And it's a car. So she literally went from, I create potions that do different effects, and they did some pretty clever stuff with it. I mean, even with the, like, creating explosions, stuff like that, or creating a potion inside of somebody's body. At some point, it just turned into her making whatever. Like, if she wants something, she just creates it. And she creates a potion that is something. And so it kind of just, it lost the potion thing.
It was a cute idea, and to be clear, okay, it was a cute idea when she wanted to make a hair ornament. It was
or
cute.
she made like the statue.
I'll even give that one was a little bit pushing the limit, but the freaking car. And it wasn't exactly a car. It was a carriage that was in the shape of a car.
Futuristic carriage.
Yeah, I mean, it was stupid, and it was like
a Jetsons like carriage. Like if you had a carriage in a Jetson world, it would look like that. Yeah, it had like the top. It closes up. It's got AC in there. I would doubt she would have like a TV in there or something like that.
It was at that point. It was like, okay.
And then we're creating like OP Excalibur swords.
OP Excalibur
that cut through
swords,
anything.
yeah. it was just I didn't.
It didn't bother me a bunch, but it was still kind of
exactly.
like
It wasn't.
it lost its original flavor. Is my problem.
The show at some point it was like, okay, the potions are irrelevant. Really, what it is Kaoru going around basically doing exactly what these people are saying she is. She's a freaking saint that's going around and preaching at everybody. That's really what it is.
I did like Celestine telling them all, like, what the hell are y'all doing with me? Like I never gave you guys that permission. What the hell's wrong with you? That was good. But I did like those little ceremonies where she would bring everybody together and just like, it was more in the idea that it was kind of setting things straight. And I think the Celestine showing up for the second one was like, because when they did the second one, I was like, oh, we're doing this again. And then Celestine shows up and I'm like, okay, good. I like this. This is actually really good. Because again, not Toyama.
I mean, it's one of those things that I absolutely love the show, but at the same time, there is some flaws in it. It's not. I enjoyed it's one of those things that should I just go ahead and say I enjoyed 80,000 more than this? I really did like this show, but it does have its flaws. It's
for me it's still like 80,000 survive by potions and then make my abilities average.
I need to go back and watch make my abilities average again.
I keep wanting to, but then every time I think about it, I think about that one episode where they were in the snow and I'm like, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch it. Because didn't they have the episode where they were all stuck in the igloo? Or was that a different show?
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
It's been so long.
It's like been like 3 years.
I remember there was a scene where the crazy lady was up on the balcony and there was a whip involved. I don't remember. There's
whips happened.
There's things.
Balconies were there. Guardrails were broken.
There was a fireball that ate.
There was fireballs involved. It got messed up. Anyways, yeah, that's that. I still think it's solid. Yeah, I just it had a lot of rough points. It just had a lot of rough edges. That's all. Dr. Stone New World. Did you watch Dr. Stone New World Part 2?
Yep.
For those who don't know, Dr. Stone is where this geeky boy was doing his little researches, and then like everybody in the world turned to stone, including him, and then cut 4,000 of years, and finally he got snapped out of the stone, and then he looks for a way to free everybody from the stone prisons they have, and then to rebuild society breakneck speed, because he wants to build up society again so that he can go to the moon. And
oh yeah, by the way, they're going to the moon.
Yeah, they gotta go to the moon. At some point in New World Part 1, they received a message, or they intercepted a message that was this guy that he claims was the one that did it all, and they're trying to go over to this one island or to get this
Y-Man.
these parts.
His name is Y-Man.
Yeah, Wiseman.
No, not Wiseman.
Y-Man. No, it's Wiseman. I'm just calling it Wiseman. Because it sounds
Wiseman.
Because the Y thing was stupid, dude. It was so stupid. How they figure out that was the person? I was like, what? Anyways, it's literally Y-Man, because I'm going, why is this a thing? But no, they go to this island because they want to get the parts from the spaceship that his father once used in order to make a unlimited supply of fixing stoneness. And then runs into another tribe that has the ability to turn people into stone. So that was a big shocker. And then, yeah, they get their answer, they get their stone making thing, and then they return home. At which point, yes, they go back to the original goal, which was that Senku's going to the moon.
Yep, they're going to the moon. Just in case you forgot, they're going to the moon.
Full circle. It's a story full circled. Senku wanted to go to the moon. He got turned to stone. Wanted to go to the moon, and then he goes to another island, and then Senku wants to go to the moon. So eventually, I'm sure this series will end with him
on the moon,
going underwater. The only place that mankind has not fully explored, the ocean. So yeah, your thoughts?
You can only assume that Senku's going into the water.
It ends with Senku turning into stone again. 1 million percento? Was it 1 million percento? I don't remember.
IQ percento.
Percento.
I think it's 10 billion%. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's whatever it is.
It's his catchphrase, and I don't even care to figure it out. I just know it's something percento, and it's
Haku percento. It's what he says.
He might as well say 100% because it's the same thing.
I know, and for some odd reason they're translating it as 10 billion%. I don't know.
I'm sure the dub's different. It's super fantastic percento. I bet that's what he says. Super fantastic percento. That'd be great.
Oh gosh.
I wasn't a massive fan with this arc. Am I off base? I wasn't a massive fan of this arc. There was the introduction of an actual tool was interesting, and I do love the end of this season. But I wasn't really a big fan of this whole part.
I both loved and hated this arc. It was in too many places. Is what I would feel.
It's one of those ones where if you think about it, what happened? Like they went there, like if this part, this is where those moments where I feel like if you cut this part out of the story, I would feel like nothing changed. Yes, the final reveal, that last broadcast and finding out about that secret location, but that didn't necessarily need that in the end. Like there was technically, yes, there's a tool that makes it to where they're able to bring somebody to fix something very important that was established seasons ago. But did you need to do this whole island thing to do that? Really? Was that the only thing this was for, to get that one item? Because everything else, I don't feel like there's much purpose there. Yes, it is establishing the other cultures. And I'm not saying this is a bad season. I'm just saying it is probably the weakest point of the series because I don't feel like in the end it did much for the overall story. The moments are still great, and I'm still massively addicted by the overall presentation of the series. I find it to be oddly addicting to watch. I still find every episode extremely entertaining, but the overall story, I felt like this was a massive detour.
I still agree. I find Senku absolutely just compelling. I absolutely get a kick out of him. Most of the other characters...
I never said anything about Senku. I meant Rusui. Rusui's become my new favorite character.
He's actually a really fantastic character.
He literally steals the stage from Senku.
I can't stand Chrome. Chrome annoys the crap out of me. I can't stand the
I hate really anybody else too.
The Ginkgo is whatever the other guy, the goofy blonde out of
Give me Kohaku, Senku, and Rusui. Everybody else I don't care.
And I love Kohaku. I love Rusui. I really do like Taiju and Yuzurihara are fantastic.
Oh, I really like this guy right here, right?
Yeah,
right.
I can't stand him. He annoys the crap out of me.
Even this guy was annoying this season. You guy with the gun, like he was annoying too.
I know,
Magma.
But I do like the butler lady. I think she's fantastic.
She's okay.
But ultimately, to go with what Andrew was saying, there's an aspect about the petrification device, for whatever reason, kind of irked the crap out of me. I don't know why it bothered me so much, but it did. I finally just kind of went with it, but there was something about effectively, they made this thing that kind of the petrification beam that took the entire planet is reduced down to this one little device that some people
technically explain it as it's
and I was getting I know, and I was gonna get to that. Okay.
That we just sprinkled over everything.
Yeah, they fixed the problem of it all being this one little device by saying, well, they had one little device all over the entire world. So that fixes another problem that they're obviously going to bump into here very soon. but it did kind of dampened the weight of this issue that they had. There was the Y man that may possibly have this device that could effectively ruin everything that Senku and them are working for. They're working towards this future of unstoning everybody. What is the stone?
You
I don't
saying
know.
it for some reason more comical. Thank you. Unstoning.
Unstoning.
Destoning.
But they have this Y man who is up wherever he is, and he is an ultimate threat to Senku and his group. By reducing it down to this little device that these other people on this island at some point found, I guess, you reduce it down to this one little device. Yes, they kind of added the weight back to it later on by, like Andrew said, implying that they sprinkled down from the skies. Well, okay, so you have the weight back. But for the entire season, it did lose a lot of its weight by saying there isn't this magical guy up in the sky who has this ultimate power that can ruin everything. So, take that for what it is. It's a small, I guess, minor tidbit. I do still love the cast, still love what they're doing, and this kind of goofy science thing that we get to go on these little romps and all these goofy characters and what's going on. I like it.
I can't wait to find out that it's just an AI up there.
It's an AI.
It's just a server up there.
Y-Man is up there, and he's an AI.
It's an AI. It's just it's a bad
AI.
AI.
They already talked about that. They deepfaked their voice.
That's
Senku's
true.
Voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's proof right there. It's Chat GPT.
Yep.
Chat GPT is Y-Man. Skynet. Yeah, like I said earlier, I still find this show extremely addictive. I hate that I find it as enjoyable as it is because everything about this show shouldn't work for me. Like I mentioned earlier, technically I don't really care about really any characters. I find their brief introductions for like a brief moment of an episode to explain their story to be kind of like this season, or was it part 1? I forget. The camera girl, like I don't know where it's suddenly like, oh, here's her story, and I'm like, I really don't. That's not really that compelling. I mean, great, she likes this guy, and all right, that's a cool story, I guess. Like it's an absolute cool story, bro moment. There's like very little is put into the character writing of each individual character. Their character becomes essentially reacting how they react to Senku. So there's like they don't have a driving force. It's just how do they respond to Senku when he does something Sengoi. That's their characters. And so most of the characters I really care much for. Like I said, besides like Kohaku because she's super cute and I like her kicking butt. Besides Rusui and his
they have a new
nature.
Kohaku too.
Yeah, sure. Besides even Kasake, I kind of like him and his crazy, like, over-the-top reaction to new things they're making. But they're not really compelling characters. They're just kind of going with whatever Senku's doing. But I still find the show extremely entertaining, and it's shocking because none of this show should work for me. I mean, even in my head, I will often say, you didn't make a drone, whatever, dude. There's no way you have everything you need to make a dang drone. That's like when they talked about making a cell phone in the previous season. Like, you're not going to make LEDs and a backlight screen and a touch sensitive screen. Like, there's no, okay, you just made, like, I guess you can call that a cell phone. There's like these moments of like, I guess that's a cell phone. Sure. Just like that big brick that they had in cars a long time ago is a cell phone. Is a cell phone, but yeah, anyways, it wasn't this kind of a cell phone, and he falsely advertised they were going to make this. He didn't make a cell phone. Anyways, I still have my problems where I criticize what he's thinking he's going to make because I don't like, even like in a spaceship, I'm like, go ahead and explain how that's going to happen. I'm really interested to see how you explain how he's going to make a spaceship. But it all kind of works for the entertainment. So, and it works in the end. I don't know how they pull it off, but they always pull it off. I always enjoy it. I enjoy every single episode. It's infectious. And I think that's just in how they present it and what Senku is a character, what Rusui is as a character, that just makes it work. So kudos to the writer and the staff for making that happen, because it, again, everything about this shouldn't work. So looking forward to the final season of Dr. Stone. That'll probably be 2 parts, because that's a thing that's made now.
It's so funny because if I remember right, one of the things that I didn't like about when we first seen this, I want to say that I didn't like the character artwork, and now I'm absolutely
it's very
with
unique. It's very unique. Jujutsu Kaisen 2nd season. I don't even think I'm going to talk much about this. I really hated the last episode. It's just fun action. I am not going to sit here and review it, because I fully admit to a lot of people, it is not working for me. I am kind of interested to see where the series goes from here. Ever since the first season, or ever since like the second half of the first season, I have been falling out of love with it for a long time. And it's kind of been one of those series where I just have been on autopilot watching it. And I fully acknowledge that it's just not for me. And the story is just not working for me. And the characters, they did a lot of like horrific stuff to the characters this season. And I didn't care about a single one of them. And I think a true testament that a show's not working for you, or a story's not working for you, is when you see a bunch of what seems like very important characters get taken out of the picture, and you have no feelings whatsoever hitting you. Something's wrong. So I don't know if anybody agrees with me that it's just the story just is not doing. I mean, we did the whole thing where we show a lot of the character story the moment that they die in the episode, and it's like, okay, you're doing this stuff now. I don't know if anybody agrees with me, but I've just, it has not been working for me. Hats off to the studio, the animators, for doing an incredible job keeping that together, because what it looks like was held together by duct tape, and they somehow managed to make it look as good as it was, is incredible. But I think this, at this point, I'm fully acknowledging the fact that Jujutsu Kaisen is just not for me, and I am perfectly happy with everybody loving it to death. But I don't know, maybe just right now maybe I just have a shonen fatigue, because I think for a while now shonen's just not been working for me. I mean, part of Demon Slayer's recent season I kind of liked, but yeah, even with that one I got kind of fatigued with that one as well. I've been enjoying Bleach, so it's not a full-on shonen thing, but I don't know. Like I said, I'll be interested to see where it goes from here, but I'm just kind of out of love with it. And that's it for all the ending shows. Question, Chris, where are we at right now?
Are you going to fill up that last minute?
Do we want to do mid-season reviews right now?
Probably not.
Because we are running long, and I know it's extremely late, and
I have to feed doggies.
Yeah, you have to feed doggies. You had to go to you had to make an extra trip before you came here, and that's why I'm thinking it's been a little bit late.
Yes.
So I don't know. We do have Forever and Beyond Diaries and Apothecary Diaries, Undead Unluck, Shangri-La Frontier.
You're pretty in the wheelhouse if you think that we like most of those.
It's a lot of talking for those 4 shows. Like it's not so much like we have like 4 shows left, but there's going to be a lot of discussion because it's a lot of gushing. I do want to get your thoughts on them, so I don't know. We could possibly do like a mid-season review discussion. We could leave them with the first impressions for the winter.
Just throw them in as a daggum baby spoiler cast somewhere.
We did just do a spoiler discussion of at least 3 of those shows here recently, so I guess it hasn't been too long since we talked about them. We could do another spoiler talk later on. That we could do that. That's
because then I mean, mid-season.
We love them all.
I'm not. That's what I was going to say.
Shangri-La Frontier, but I love Forever and Apothecary and Undead. So
you don't like Shangri-La?
I haven't got. It was one that kind of got lost in the transition to the next season.
You'll be fine.
So I'll eventually watch it. Let's see, where am I at on it? I got to the point where I think he finally ran into the girl in the game, which is like episode 5 or something. So I'm way behind. Let's see, fall. I don't even have. Oh wait, it's out here. I was like, I don't even have him anymore. No, I got to episode 8, so I'm not that far behind. I'm only 4 episodes behind. It's not that bad. 4 episodes behind. I know we established today was 14 episodes, so yeah, never mind. I'm more episodes. But anyways, we'll leave that for later, but that's it. Oh yeah, there was Attack on Titan, the final season, the final chapters. I made a whole video on it. I don't want to talk about it again. I said when I made that review, I'm like, I'm done with it. I don't have to talk about Attack on Titan until either they make the what was it, the Cruel Mistress of the what's that light novel called? Cruel Mistress of something. Until they adapt that one, which I would love actually. I think that'd be a great anime. Or did they do an OVA? They didn't do an OVA on that one, did they? They did the other ones OVAs, but I don't think they ever did that one.
I don't think they did. I would have probably watched it.
Until they do that, or they just make another series, which I no doubt they're going to do another series. They're totally going to reboot it. Not reboot it, they'll just continue it because it just teases that at the end. Anyways, I just don't want to talk about it anymore. So yeah, that's that. That's it. That's all that we're done with fall. Let's move on with our lives. Again, we'll be probably, I don't know if next week. I'll have to see if I can put together the outline for it. We could just do a discussional next week, or we might jump into deliberations for the best of 2023. I also need to get with, I think they're still doing the voting process on the Discord for the community choices for 2023. So eventually, whenever that gets done, we'll get with Ira and we'll do a full community picks for 2023. So that'll be a lot of fun. As per usual, yes, we're at otakuspirit.com. That's where you can go for our link to our Discord, so you can join that community. Great people there. If you're not a good person, if you're a mean person, then don't bother going there. We don't care. We'll just kick you out anyways. There's great people there. A lot of people having a lot of fun discussion. It's always been solid. We get every now and again get a little bit of disagreement, but I think because it's got a good group of people in there that kind of keeps it steered towards chill out and just hang out and have fun, talk about anime, and that's kind of what we wanted. We were a little bit afraid of making it, but it turned out good in the end. Even though Chris is never really there.
I'm there.
I'm there.
Just don't talk a lot anymore.
But yeah, that's where that is. We have a channel for Mashiko Mondays, which is my coverage of the novel series. We have a channel for gaming, gacha games. We have a whole Hoyoverse version. We have anime, general chat, all that stuff. I don't plug the Discord enough, so I wanted to get that out there. But again, also on Otaku Spirit, that's where all of our links are for ways to support us, like Patreon, tips, links, and all that ways that you can get donations over, which kind of keep things going, keeps the lights on. I'm not allowed to say donations, am I? Ways to support the channel. I think donation's a bad term. Can you say donate? I don't think I can say donate.
I don't know. I think they're paying you, so.
What the eye raise, bro? Like, I don't freaking know. But yeah, ways to support the channel. We greatly appreciate that. Again, we also have a link to youtube.com/Otaku Spirit if you're not watching us there. That's where we have the video version of this stuff if it doesn't corrupt or whatever. But yeah, all the other content that I do there, which is covering anime weekly, including Faraway and Apothecary Diaries, which I'm so glad they were back. Man, when Friday and Saturday came back around, I was like, I missed these shows so freaking much.
Right?
2 weeks felt like too long. But yeah, anyways, that's all that stuff. Greatly appreciate you guys.
Got my Mau fix. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I got the Mau. My Frieden and my Fern and Stark freaking shipping, dude. Just do it already.
Yeah, just get it.
Do it already. Anyways. Yeah, I'm probably covering gushing over Magical Girl weekly. Until YouTube content flags my videos, I will cover gushing over Magical Girls on a weekly basis. The first one I skimmed by, didn't get in trouble for my first coverage of it. I did not show any screenshots that were remotely risque. The thumbnail was pretty risky, but I didn't show anything.
Did you clickbait people?
Every time. I will. I tell people I will lure you with my thumbnails and my titles, but I will never lie to you. And I think clickbait is technically supposed to be a lie. I will always be honest. Just like my last Mystical Mondays thumbnail, what'd it say? Princess showers. It was not a lie. There is a princess, and there's a talk of showers. But I didn't make YouTube mad by saying exactly what it was supposed to be. This princess is special. Anyways, let's cut off there. Thank you guys for watching or listening, all that kind of stuff, and y'all take care.
Os.